I have been a public game master for decades. What does that mean? I go run the game for strangers. People that might not have other people to play these games with. So they need someone, and that's where I come in. Back in the 80s and 90s, on a rare occasion, I would run into a player that had an attitude, one they wouldn't put aside for the game, for the sake of socializing with other people. They would come in with the attitude, and they would expect that you bow your knee to them. They're not going to adjust how they talk. Everyone needs to cater to their attitude. In some cases, these attitude players would say something that was totally in the wrong. But in most cases, it wasn't what they said that was wrong, it was the attitude, it was the tone of voice. Like, you might be right, but you don't have to talk to the game master and other players that you're playing with, in a tone that tells them that you think they are a piece of trash. In some cases, I could save these attitude players just by having a good talk with them and convincing them that what they were doing was wrong. It's not going to work in a social setting where they need to get along with other people. If that didn't work, on occasion, if I gave a damn, I would take players that, the talk wasn't working over to stable tables. And I would show them what a stable group looks like, a consistent group that they know is going, and these guys are having a lot of success and a lot of fun, and saying, is this what you want? And they'd be like, yeah. Well, I'd be like, check out the attitude of the game master and players in this game. And they would notice right away, in any stable group, there were no problem players. There were no attitude players. And I said, if I put you in that group would stop being stable because of you. It doesn't matter, that there's other players. Well, it's just me. How can I cause that issue? Trust me, you can. And that's why a player like you isn't sitting at that stable table. And that's why we can call it a stable table. Something where you get good, consistent gaming. But you won't get it with an attitude. You never will. What was good about the 80s and 90s was the majority of players respected how this goes and they played the game. And when you would run into a problem player, it was a rare thing. It would suck. You would hear horror stories, but it was a rare thing. Here is the difference from then until 2023. In my experience as a public game master in 2023, 80% of players now are the attitude players that you can't really play the game with. And stable players are now the minority. And I mean small minority. So what makes an attitude player? Somebody who is not good for a tabletop role-playing game. Well, one is being socially unaware. To the point where what you're saying isn't the issue. It's your tone of voice. You're using a tone that tells me that you think I'm a piece of trash. You're using a tone that tells me you have no respect for me. And I don't care if you tell me you do, because if you really do, it should show. I should be able to experience that respect. And if you speak to me in a certain tone, I'm not experiencing no respect. I'm experiencing you spitting in my face verbally. Another issue is these players, many of them, do not respect the Game Master's authority to manage their table. I'm not just there to tell you how the rules go, but if you speak a certain way or act a certain way and I tell you not to act that way, I have the authority to do so. And if you tell me I don't, you need to leave the table. And I feel bad for Game Masters that don't have the nerve to tell these people to get lost. Because many of these attitude players, especially in 2023, what do? They go around game wrecking. I call them game wreckers. They get in and they destroy a game because a game master might not have, the courage to say what they have to say to that player. They let them linger on. And maybe that's a good thing in a certain way. Maybe, that's a way to get rid of weak game masters. If you can't handle the job, maybe you got to move aside. But either way, I have no respect for these players that show up into games. They come in with these attitudes that don't work in a game, that will make other people they're playing the game with miserable, and they break the game. They run other players away. They destroy the confidence of the game master. I just don't have time for people like that. And I don't think the hobby has time for people like that. And I would tell those people, the reason you're not having any success in games where, the game is ending or things aren't working out for you, it is this attitude. You don't have respect for what's going on. You're not here to be social and get along with people and focus on playing the game and making that the interesting experience. Instead, you're here to feed your own ego for many stupid reasons. And it's not going to work, it never has, and it never will. And all you're doing is ruining the hobby overall for yourself and for other people. Many people in the hobby will complain about WotC or Paizo. It's easy to do that, so we can make sure that people are not paying attention to what we're doing in the hobby. Because if there was a light, shined upon the people playing the game, right, we'd find a lot of issues. Ones that are just as serious as anything WotC and Paizo is doing in the hobby. And I don't like the idea that many people use WotC and Paizo to hide in the shadows with their issues. No, we spend enough time criticizing the market. We need to spend some time, turning that around and looking at ourselves and seeing if we're an issue. Because what's the point of WotC, fixing whatever it's doing or becoming a better company for the overall hobby? If the next thing you turn around and we still have, a big mountain of issues, but it's no longer WotC, it's us. And I don't want to be late to that game, only then accepting it, years from now when maybe WotC might adjust or something like that. Finally, we turn around and look at ourselves. No, we should be doing that now. And that blind spot that we've had has been going on for decades. That's why things have degraded since the 80s right up until 2023 when it comes to attitude players in this hobby. Anyway, there is some food for thought for now. Take care. You know what you can do? You can hit the like button. You can share the video. Oh, and there's another button you can press. That one that lets you subscribe to my channel for more content. Oh yeah, there's that bell thing. You can press that so you know when I've uploaded a new video right away.